My sister-in-law, she tried to go behind my back to her mom, lying about stuff I did not do. And by the way, I'm the one paying my mother-in-law's hospital bills, so you know what? If they want to gang up on me like this, I might not even pay another dollar.
Hey guys, my name's Nancy. I'm a single mother of an 8-year-old girl. My husband Felix passed away in a car accident 3 years ago, leaving me alone to raise my daughter and take care of his mom. Felix introduced me to his family while we were dating. His mom, now my mother-in-law Sandra, was so thrilled to meet me. She's always been a warm, inviting woman. She doted on me on the whole day when I first met her, and instantly I fell in love with her. We often used to team up and tease Felix, and he used to pretend to be offended, while in reality he liked that we all got along well. All through my engagement with Felix, Sandra helped me out. I lost my mother to cancer when I was a teenager, so she accompanied me to everything like my mother would have done if she were alive. She gave me practical advice on how to organize a whole wedding and everything. I remember her crying so much at our wedding. She was so happy when I finally officially became her family, and so was I. I genuinely thought I lucked out when it came to my mother-in-law. She was always so kind and understanding of me, and I loved being her daughter-in-law. Even when I got pregnant with my daughter, she usually used to come over to help me out. She often used to tell my husband to be better and do more now that I was carrying a literal human inside of me. I fondly remember how she acted like a mom hen all throughout my pregnancy and afterwards too. She was overbearing, but in the opposite way of a usual mother-in-law. She was especially understanding after I gave birth, but she didn't once interrupt me while I and Felix were bonding with the baby in the first few weeks of her birth. She would just leave us food and help Felix out and take care of me. I vividly remember her on the day my husband died. I remember being called to the hospital because Felix has been in a drunken drive accident. I had immediately called Sandra because I didn't know how to deal with all this without her or Felix by my side. When Felix was declared dead, she was heartbroken, completely unsure of what to do, but she did not let go of my hand all throughout the time at the hospital. I remember how she did not let go of me as I cried and cried for hours into her shoulder. I had not known the depth of the despair until a few months after Felix's death. I was trying to move on for the sake of my then 5-year-old daughter. That's when Sandra's mental health plummeted. She went into a time of deep depression. Losing her son in the same way she lost her husband was very hard on her, and I could not do much to help her through this as I was grieving my husband while learning how to be a single mom. This is when the trouble between us truly began. My sister-in-law, Sharon, has always been jealous of my relationship with Sandra. Sharon was kind of a screw-up. Even a loving person as Sandra could not keep a good relationship with her daughter. Sharon was involved with a shady kind of crowd in her college years, and she was always getting in fights with Sandra. I usually was the one to reassure Sandra, which made Sharon so mad at me. I think she thought that I was stealing her mother from her. I was just trying to lift Sandra's mood like she usually did for me. When Sharon ran away with the shady man, I was the one who held Sandra all through that debacle as Felix dealt with the situation. Sharon had gotten married and, to a drug dealer, and he wasn't even a good person. Sharon tried to explain herself, claiming that she loved him, but nobody was convinced. This was one of the biggest thorns in their mother-daughter relationships, and when Sharon saw Sandra treating me so well all through my pregnancy and after my labor, she grew even more jealous. She knew that Sandra would never accept her husband like she accepted her brother's wife. So when Sandra and I were grieving separately, she wept in. She began poisoning my mother-in-law against me, telling her all these lies. This caused for Sandra to step back from me. I think Sharon told her that I was drinking and neglecting my daughter, as Sandra would often show up at my house unannounced to check up on her grandbaby. I caught up to this pretty soon and felt so betrayed that Sandra did not trust me anymore, like she used to. But she never found any proof of her daughter's lies. I don't even drink alcohol, and I'm a very involved parent as well. A year ago, however, Sandra began to fall sick. Initially, we had not thought too much of it, but when she fell and broke her hip, we were very concerned. We took her to the hospital and she needed to undergo surgery. After that, she was mainly bedridden. I wish I could have visited her more than just on the weekends, but that was just not possible with work and taking care of an 8-year-old. She was in and out of the hospital for months, and this drained out all of her savings. But when she was admitted to the hospital 3 months ago, Sharon came to me for help. She told me that I need to take care of the hospital bills. She promised that she would pitch in as much as she could, and I did so without a question. I went to see Sandra as much as I could, and I would coordinate with Sharon and bring her soup every morning that I could visit. I think showing up for her did make her warm towards me again, but it was clear that she was under Sharon's spell. She began praising Sharon for paying her hospital bill. Initially, I had thought that she was praising her because she wasn't the richest person in the family, but was still pitching in to help her mother for the past 2 months. Until she stopped pitching in at all, and I was the one paying for Sandra full-time. It was not a big deal because I make good money from my job, but Sandra still kept praising Sharon instead of me. Soon I realized that Sharon had lied to Sandra about her financial situation. Sharon has been lying to Sandra for years now, claiming that she and her husband make a lot of money, and Sandra's been too gullible and vulnerable to parse the truth. I knew that Sharon was lying when Sandra thanked Sharon's husband for his help. That's when I knew that Sharon has been lying to her sick mom. Turns out Sharon has been claiming that she's the only one paying for the bills. One morning I told Sandra that, I'm the one paying the bills. Sandra just assumed that I was pitching in a little bit while her daughter was shouldering most of the burden. I told her that Sharon was a liar, and that it was me who was paying for everything at this point. She also visibly did not like that I was taking the credit for things, according to her, that I didn't even do. She told me that I didn't have to come around so often. Well, that hurt me so much that I ran out of the hospital room before my tears could fall. I think she truly believes that I'm lying about the situation. I was so offended and mad at that, and Sharon is such a liar, but I also don't know how to expose her in front of my very sick mother-in-law. I don't want to hurt her by telling her the truth that her daughter barely pitched in anything for the first 2 months, and now I'm the only one paying for her hospital stay. What should I do? I don't need recognition or anything, but some level of appreciation would be great. And it especially infuriates me because Sandra and I have been growing apart due to Sharon's lies. We have apparently grown so far apart that Sandra doesn't even believe me when I tell her the truth and instead believes her daughter that's always been a liar. What should I do? How can I possibly make my mother-in-law realize the truth, meanwhile punishing my sister-in-law for her lies and poisoning my mother-in-law against me while we're both grieving my husband? She clearly took advantage of a woman grieving her son. I'll update you guys. Update number 1. Hello everyone, this is Nancy again here. I read through your comments and truly thought about what to do, and after 2 weeks of thorough deliberation, I've decided to stop paying for my mother-in-law's hospital expenses. I'm truly infuriated by the situation. I understand that Sharon has probably manipulated Sandra, but she did not even give me a chance. We were both grieving Felix, and instead of coming to me and discussing Sharon's bullcrap lies, she just judged me. I know that I should not be petty, but I lost my husband and took care of a child all on my own, and all Sandra did during this was judge me on the lies that Sharon would speak. And when Sandra told me not to visit her in the hospital, I stopped. And now I've stopped paying too. The hospital doesn't have my contact, only Sharon, so I have no strings attached to them. They would contact Sharon for bills and not me. When I did not pay for Sandra's treatment for a month, that's when Sharon tried to contact me. However, I completely ignored the call. I'm a busy working woman. I can't always be expected to pick up my phone. I also ignored her text. I genuinely considered blocking her number, but decided against it just in case there was a real emergency. Yesterday, however, Sharon shows up at my house, and oh boy, she was livid. I could tell just by her face she was irate. I was tired as I was coming back from work with my daughter, who was at daycare. I sent my daughter to her room so I could deal with Sharon in peace. She asked me why I stopped paying for Sandra's treatment. Well, I shrugged and told her that she claimed to be paying the bill on her own. Well, I thought that I was getting in the way of their relationship by paying the bills. Sharon told me to cut it out. She claimed that she was getting calls from the hospital nonstop to pay the hospital bill. Well, I told her that I knew that she was lying to Sandra about me for years. How terrible do you have to be to cause trouble when someone's grieving somebody important? I told her that now I know that she was lying to her about who was paying the bills. I told her that I hate liars, and that I would not be helping ungrateful people anymore. Sharon asked me if I'm being serious, and if I would really let the hospital throw Sandra out just so I could prove a point. I shrugged and told her that she and her very rich husband can just pay for the expenses like they've been claiming to. Can't they? It made her even more mad, and she told me that she was, let's see how long I could pretend to not care, and left the house. The truth is that I don't plan to pay. I'm really not. Well, unless and until she realizes on her own that Sharon is the problem and actually acknowledges it. She's judged me, according to Sharon's lies, and isn't even ready to talk to Sharon when I told her the truth. I don't want the praise. I just want my mother-in-law to believe in me again like she used to when Felix was alive. She was my mother in every sense of the word. Now we don't even talk to one another. All because Sharon came between us, and what hurts the most is that Sandra did not even give me a chance to defend myself against her daughter's lies in the first place. Update number 2. Hey everybody, this is Nancy again. It's been 2 weeks since Sharon came over to talk to me about resuming her pay for the mother's hospital expense. All the while, she pretended to be the one paying in front of her. The hospital actually asked Sandra to leave the hospital. Sandra showed up at my house yesterday very confused, and she told me that she's been calling Sharon for days now, and she's not been picking up her calls. She told me that she had actually gone to her house straight after being discharged, but nobody had been home. She was obviously quite confused. I sat Sandra down and gave her some water, but she kept on asking why Sharon wasn't picking up her calls or paying her expenses anymore, so I took a deep breath and again told her the truth. I told her that Sharon was not the ones who stopped paying the hospital bill. I stopped paying it. Well, this set Sandra off, and she screamed at me to stop lying to her. She told me that she knew exactly what sort of person I was. She claimed that she knows all about me going to Sharon to ask for money to raise my daughter. She went on and on about how I've been lying to her all these years, and I was shocked to hear about the lies Sharon's been feeding Sandra for years. Apparently, I spend all my money on alcohol and drugs. I've also asked Sharon to help me out. I'm also a very neglecting mother, and Sharon has apparently been coming over and feeding and taking care of my daughter while Sandra's been in the hospital. Turns out that I'm even struggling professionally and don't have a real job. Sandra had not spoken to me about it because she wanted to respect me by giving me space to grieve Felix. I was honestly too shocked to say anything to that, and it was worse than I had ever thought it'd be. Sandra claimed to know all about how I coped with Felix's death. Apparently, Sharon told her everything. I could not take the assassination of my character anymore and screamed at her that her daughter lied to her. I told her that I don't even drink. How can I possibly be an alcoholic? I asked her if she had ever spotted alcohol on my breath all this time, and she's known me, and she went silent. I told her to look for the alcohol all throughout my house, and I even gave her the permission to ask my daughter how involved Sharon is with her. Because as long as either of us know, Sharon has never even met my daughter in the past 3 years, until she came over to talk to me. Sandra still did not believe me and shook her head at me in disgust. Sandra was not convinced and told me to get professional help before leaving me there standing. Well, I understand that she was struggling the last 3 years, and that we have grown apart quite a lot, but how can she believe anything her daughter's been telling her? I feel so humiliated, I feel so angry, and she's so readily believing these lies about me, and still doesn't believe me now that I've proven to her that Sharon was lying from the start. I don't think I can salvage our relationship anymore. The look of disgust on Sandra's face will forever be in my mind, and I don't think we can ever be what we used to be when Felix was alive. Update number 3. Hey everyone, it's Nancy again. It's been almost a month since my mother-in-law called me a liar and decided not to believe the proof I'd shown her about her daughter being the one lying. 2 days ago, I'd gotten a call in the middle of the night from Sandra. I had immediately grown concerned because she was sick. Even though she had not contacted me in almost a month, I knew Sharon had not gotten back to her. Sharon truly didn't care for her mother, only pretended to because she was jealous of me. On the line, I could tell from Sandra's tone that she was struggling. My determination of proving my innocence went through the window when I heard her heavy breathing, and I was already on my feet changing out my night clothes when she explained about her situation. Sandra had fallen unconscious and just woken up and called me. She was still dizzy and didn't know what to do. Well, I told her, "Don't worry, I'm on my way." I stayed on the line because Sandra was scared while I dialed for the ambulance to go to the home. Then I went to receive my daughter from her bed. I could not possibly leave my 8-year-old at home alone, so I had to take her to the hospital. I get there before Sandra did. I'd stayed with Sandra on the call until the ambulance arrived. Then I had let them do their job. I was in tears when they rolled my mother-in-law out of the ambulance and was immediately there to hold her hand, like she held mine when Felix passed. She tried to talk to me, but she had a mask over her lower face, and the nurse told her to not talk. She reassured me that Sandra would be all right and she just needed a few injections. They took her away from me, and I went to fill some forms with my daughter, who was also very, very scared. They put Sandra to sleep, and I didn't know what else to do. I put my daughter to bed on the hospital couch and just paced around in guilt. I felt guilty about what I did. Was my ego truly so huge that I decided to take my anger out on my mother-in-law? I would never have been able to forgive myself if something truly happened to her. In the morning, the doctor reassured me that Sandra was stable, but she really needed to continue her treatment. She had collapsed because of her discontinued treatment, and I told him that we would be continuing her treatment. So, when I came back to the hospital room, Sandra beckoned me to her. She had tears in her eyes, and I teared up just by looking at her. She told me that she was sorry, and I told her that I was sorry too. I claimed that I was being petty, and she was far more important than me proving a silly point, and that I should have never stopped paying for her just because Sharon had manipulated her the last few years. Sandra was full on crying now, and so was I. She said that she was at fault for ever believing Sharon in the first place. She said that she was just too wrapped up in Felix's death to even give me a chance to prove myself. I was glad to hear it, but I was not glad about everything that happened. I still feel guilty about Sandra's situation, even though she's completely stable now after 2 days. So, Sharon isn't picking up my calls either, and I think she knows that Sandra's found out about their lies. I can't believe how less she cares for her mother. Update number 4. Hello everyone, it's Nancy again. It's been 4 months since I rushed my mother-in-law to the hospital. I thought I would give you one last update about the situation. Sandra's doing well. She was actually discharged a week ago, after completing her treatment at the hospital. And she's better now than ever. She even looks so much healthier. Her face has gained weight again, and she's doing great. I thought that it was inconvenient to let Sandra go back to her own house and asked her to just move in with me. She's been reluctant, but I told her that I really needed help with my daughter and that she could look after her while I was at work. My daughter's 8, she isn't too young and won't cause Sandra much trouble. She'll eventually agree, and we brought her home. We're in the middle of selling her house, and my daughter loves this new arrangement. This means that she can come home and doesn't have to spend her time at a daycare, which she claims is for babies, and she's not a baby, she's a big girl. At least now I know that Sandra will have somebody beside her for most of the day, and my daughter will also have somebody to keep an eye on her. This is honestly such a great situation for all of us guys. Sharon has not gone in contact with any of us. I had thought of going over to her house, but I had nothing to say to her, truly. So there was no reason to do it, but she hasn't even called to ask for Sandra's health. I know this makes Sandra really sad, but she pretends like it just doesn't matter. Me and Sandra have been rebuilding our relationship as well, and we aren't like we used to be when Felix was alive, but we're slowly getting there, and that's enough for now. I'm just glad that there isn't so much distance between us anymore. Sandra's even happier now that she has a kid to play with all day long. My daughter keeps her busy. Sandra loves solving puzzles with her and even helps her with homework, especially because it's difficult for me to do so. She's picking up at my slack and I can't even be grateful enough for her. That is it, guys, for the updates. I just wanted to tell everyone that we're doing better than ever. Thank you for caring for me and Sandra and giving me advice. I know I made some mistakes in the past few months, but I'm satisfied as to where I stand with my mother-in-law.
It was so weird to me, the things that Sharon was lying about. I mean, why? Her mom was sitting there very sick, and everybody was already grieving the loss of a brother, the loss of a husband, and the loss of a son, so why would we have to deal with Sharon's crap on top of all this? I want to know what you guys would have personally done if you were in OP's position and you just know for a fact that this Sharon girl is lying to everybody, specifically the mother-in-law, about everything that you did not do. Guys, let's talk about that one down below. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate these stories every single day. And if you have your own mother-in-law, sister-in-law drama you want to share, even if it's not really related to the video, drop it down in the comment. I would love to hear your misadventures or adventure or whatever you want to call it. Guys, once again, my name's Mr. Reddito, so hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.